Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Willard Preacher podcast. My name is Matt. I'm a former student at Penn State University and a convert to Orthodoxy. I'm joined, as always, by Gary Cattell, who is known as Penn State's Willard Preacher. And we are both extremely grateful and excited to have as a guest Stacey, who is a convert to Orthodox Christianity, as well as a fellow parishioner at Holy Trinity Orthodox Church in State College. So thank you so much for joining us, Stacey. And usually with these, we sort of turn it over to you pretty early, just because we want to hear your story and we don't necessarily want to run things here. So you're going to be sharing with us absolutely whatever you would like, your upbringing, your faith journey, how you encountered Orthodoxy, and so forth. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining us, and take it away.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. Such a joy. Well, where do I begin? I think what's important context for my journey into Orthodoxy is that I grew up attending a Bible church. So many would refer to it as Protestant non-denominational, but it was a Bible church actually up in northern New Jersey. So I'm a Jersey girl deep down inside, and completely blessed that my mom and father, very active family we were in the church, from when I was young all the way up until high school. So attending church services was important to us in addition to personal prayer. And we had a very active youth group, from going on retreats, learning about our faith, to Sunday school, to Youth Fridays. So very active, and was very much used to having a prayer life, reading the Bible there.
So when you said Bible church, do you mean is there any particular leaning towards it, like Calvinism or anything? Just like a regular
No, regular, but and
belief?
a good question. If anything, from my recollection, I would call it more evangelical, like so tendency towards a very evangelical type of worship services and faith there.
Kind of like the pop music sort of guitars and
Oh
that sort of
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So very much used to a lot of different instruments in church, long services there too. So there would always be one service, I think, before Sunday school that was a bit more traditional or structured. And then sometimes other services, especially Sunday evening, we would also have church service. And that was much more free flowing with guitars, pianos, all that good stuff.
And did you go to the one before Sunday school or after Sunday school?
I would typically, well, it would depend when I could get my parents to also want to go and drive me, but typically I would go to the one early before Sunday school. So very much was used to go to church, then Sunday school, then go out and have a nice lunch at a New Jersey diner. Yeah,
That's good.
yeah, yeah. So very active all through high school, and then I went to college. I went to Penn State, and like many going to universities there, you either find a church home, especially if you're going to a type of Bible church that you don't find everywhere, or I call it my college years, I lost my way, my lost time. So I tried to find a church when I was here as a freshman, but it was one of those things where the Bible church, you needed a car to drive. And like most students, I did not have a car, so it wasn't easily accessible. So what happens, like many, you stop going and you begin to fall away. So I call my college years a bit of falling away from practicing my faith there. So when I did graduate from Penn State, one of the first things I wanted to do was like, I need to find a church. I need to get back. I know I need that relationship with God, and that's not only myself doing prayers. I need that community worship there. So that was a priority for me when I had graduated from Penn State. But then should it be a Bible church? I knew Roman Catholicism from my friends. I've gone to Roman
So,
Catholic Church, not for me. So I was in this exploration phase.
so when you say again Bible church, and you said there was only one in State College, you remember which one that was?
Oh, no, I
It's too long
don't.
ago.
I
So
don't.
in the Protestant realm, what would a Bible church be? Was that, you mean like more of an evangelical church, or you wouldn't consider the mainline denominations a Bible church?
We consider ourselves Protestant, but I had no connection to Lutheran, Methodist, anything. I didn't even know those at that point in time when I was younger. I just knew that it would be typically a church that really put all of its emphasis in the Bible and really only that premise for our faith and our foundation. And that was probably the extent of my knowledge. I didn't have a lot of knowledge or information about other Protestant churches at that time.
So you graduated college, looking for a Bible. Where are you now?
I
Still
am in
State College?
Princeton, New Jersey.
New
Yes.
Jersey, okay.
So when I graduated from the university and got my first job, that happened to be down in Princeton, New Jersey. So I was living by myself, working in search to find a church, exploring, maybe not as actively. And then all of a sudden, I met a friend at work, and she's like, "Do you want to come?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? You're an Italian American, aren't you Roman Catholic?" And she says, "No, I'm Orthodox and I attend a Greek Orthodox church." I'm like, what is that? I had never even heard of Orthodox Christianity, had no idea at all. So really, because of my dear friend saying, "Come and see," that's what then got my first steps into, at that time, it was a Greek Orthodox church down in the Trenton, New Jersey area.
You told her you were looking for a church, and she said, "Why don't you come to
Yeah,
mine?"
yeah, I was, probably that didn't come up completely in first conversation. Our first connection point was actually the Olympics were taking place. I'm going to age myself. So that was in, what was that then? Around the 1994 January year was the Winter Olympics. So we shared in common enjoying watching sports with each other. So that was the first connection point. But then getting to talk about church and faith, and how I learned then that she actually converted to Orthodoxy. It's like, well, tell me more about that.
She did.
She did. She did. What was interesting was when she invited me to church, my first church service in an Orthodox church was Holy Friday evening. Now, if someone Orthodox is watching this right now, or if anyone who's been to Holy Friday evening or in Good Friday evening service, they know that's probably one of our longer church services in the Orthodox faith. But that was actually the first service I attended. And really, from that moment of stepping into the church and experiencing it, I just was overcome by the warmth that I felt. Now, again, growing up Bible church, length of services wasn't something that was going to scare me away. I was used to longer services. But the richness of it, of really experiencing Christ on the cross too, I had never experienced anything like that. And so from that church service on, I was very much, okay, tell me more about Orthodoxy. I want to know more. There's something here for me.
The Holy Friday service deals with what? The evening service.
The evening service, so it for me puts us in that time when Christ was crucified and then taken down from the cross, and typically that would be then in the afternoon service, and then we're singing. In the Greek church, we start with the lamentation prayers, being those where were giving up as a funeral service there. So very much that funeral service type of experience.
An interesting thing in Orthodoxy is they kind of walk you through it, all that during Holy Week, and put you. They don't sing it as if it's happened a long time ago. They sing it as if it's happening now, and you're there. So they
And
go through the whole,
yeah.
trial and whatever, and the death and betrayal and tomb and Hades and all that sort of stuff.
And I think that is something, not only that whole Holy Week in the Orthodox Church, you experience it as it's happening now. That's so true even right every Sunday service too. We're always celebrating Easter, or in the Greek word, right, Pascha, like every Sunday service too. So I think that's something quite unique and special about the Orthodox Church.
So when the service was over, did you guys talk about it at all?
Oh gosh, my memory, because this is 30 some years ago. So my memory of all the details are a little
Well,
bit
that's all right. I was
behind
more
the.
thinking, well, what happened afterwards? I mean, did you, not
I,
immediately afterwards necessarily, but
Well, it was quite immediate, though. I was, from what I experienced and then what I was learning through talking to my friends about the faith, to me, it was like, wow, I found the church from the New Testament. I have found the church of the apostles. And I very quickly wanted to speak to a priest to convert. It was very fast. So from that Holy Friday evening to when I was baptized was in the same year, and was in on August 16th of that year. So very, very fast, which I know is not necessarily common, but was, yeah, less than a year's time, less than 6 months' time.
yeah, that is somewhat unusual. You didn't have any baggage or anything coming over, things that you had to unlearn or anything or relearn or from your Bible church days to Orthodox days or
I'm sure. I don't know if some of it is I'm always like jumping into the pool feet first type of person, of just then reading there too. So yes, there was so much I needed to learn. So, example, one thing that was quite interesting, how God works. The church I went to didn't have icons all over, as you would probably see in a lot of Greek or Russian churches. It didn't even have the icons up in the dome area, right? We call the Panagrato, where you'd see Christ in the dome if you've been in a church. It only had what we call, right, the iconocies, the icon screen up front. Otherwise, it was very white. And so interesting, right? Coming from
yeah.
a church, a Bible church, that everything is white. I didn't know what an icon, right, was, of an image of Christ or the saints there. Just fascinating how God put me in a first church that wasn't completely decked out in icons, because I think I might have had a different experience or reaction to it. So that is always something I reflect upon, that he knew where to bring me, I think, to definitely embrace the church versus be a little maybe overwhelmed by all the icons.
So do you know why that was? Was that a new church and they hadn't quite gotten it, set up or
Exactly, exactly. It was a newer church, and then, right, the cost to fundraise for those things. So it was on the newer side. Now, when I've been back to that church, yes, it has icons all over, which is a blessing to see.
do you think if it would have at that time, you may have had different reaction?
I think so. I really do. It might have taken me longer to warm up to orthodoxy there, or maybe be as open. It could be overwhelming there. So yes, I actually do think it could have had a different response for myself.
Did they take you through catechumen classes or anything like that, or where you learned the faith or?
So back in that day, there probably wasn't many converts, especially in a Greek Orthodox Church, right? So I wasn't going to the Orthodox Church of America. I think very, very different setup versus Greek Church, where 75% of the service was still in ancient Greek and maybe 25% English too.
How did you deal with
So
that?
luckily, they have beautiful Divine Liturgy service books that have the phonetics of the Greek and the English there. So you were taught how to learn it and understand it. So really with using the books, not that I can translate it, but I do know where I'm at with the ancient Greek from those services still to this day, which is a
Gotcha.
blessing. So, right,
Yeah.
you let the Holy Spirit work and you start to learn it. But my priest at the time, since I was actually his first adult convert too, he had me read certain books about the faith, about the divine liturgy too. And not only read them on my own, I had to read them out loud with my friends who ended up being then my godmother too, or my sponsor. And I really had to read every sentence, every word out loud and talk about it too. So he had that routine for myself since the church was, I was going to Philadelphia while living in New Jersey. So it was about a 45-minute to an hour drive to the church I ended up being baptized in.
So we may have already covered this, but what would you say to somebody who's looking for Orthodox? There's only a non-English speaking Orthodox church in their town or in their area, and how would you you may have already answered this, but what would you suggest to them as far as if they're having problems not understanding the liturgy, or thinking, oh, it's in a foreign language, I don't understand it.
Yeah, so what I would suggest from my experience is there are resources that you can get to convert it from a phonetic, so you can start to hear and understand versus reading the language, and then with English. So I would one say get a resource like that and really use it and see if there is someone in the church that can help point you along. Because honestly, right, as someone who's English speaking in our service in English, they also need to be pointed along of where things are at with it too. And then the second thing I would reference is also there's so many beautiful choirs too that you can get on CDs or even just over the internet to actually listen to the liturgy in English. So I would also recommend that.
I guess that's true these days. There's a lot of, like, our church puts theirs out on on the internet. There's a lot of churches that do that, so you could learn the service that way these days. You probably couldn't do that back then, but you can learn that these days, and then you'll be able to follow along a little bit better. But I guess we would all say that you don't want to have that be a stopping point. Well, it's not in English, so I can't go any further than this. You want to really seek it. So this is really the truth, and if it's the truth, then you may have to sacrifice something, to obtain it.
Yes, I
And that
think,
might be not understanding everything.
yeah, I think there's so many different resources to find a way to understand it. That don't let that be an obstacle, because then what's beautiful of orthodoxy that I love is the fact that no matter where you go, whether in the United States or overseas, which we'll get to a bit of, I've been to many churches in Europe, and you could be listening to the service in Albanian. I've listened to services in German, in French, in Spanish. You know where you're at. You might not know the language, but there's little pieces that it's the same Sunday service, no matter what language. So if you put in the effort, don't let it get you discouraged in the beginning if you're learning it, because it's just such a beautiful thing. No matter where you go, you will know the service.
All right, before we get to your experience overseas, is there anything else you want to Anything else that you want to talk about that from your conversion experience, or maybe a little bit afterwards?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. So I was quickly then baptized in the Annunciation Church in Philadelphia in August. And I would just add, just so blessed to be in that community and learn from all my Greek friends, both the Orthodox big T's, as we would call it, traditions, but also their culture and the smaller T's done. So really blessed in that time, to the point of I got to experience a church being consecrated too, which was just an amazing blessing to have that experience. And then after about 10 years of attending that church, God sort of puts you sometimes in different places. I ended up starting to attend an Orthodox Church of America mission parish. So completely different from going from a big, I don't know, 300 to 400 people church, really massive sized church, to something very, very small, and not having a permanent home. It does today, but not when I first started to attend that parish, to have a whole different kind of experience in Orthodoxy. So
Mission parishes.
it was a mission parish actually in Princeton, New Jersey. So what had happened was, since I was working in Princeton, New Jersey, and it was getting to be a little bit of wear and tear on me making the drive down to Philadelphia, especially during the weekday evening services, if it's during Lent time, that I wanted to find something closer. So I found this Orthodox Church of America mission parish, meaning it was just starting up new. And they had just got a blessing from the hierarch in the area and the archbishop in the area to start this parish, since there wasn't a full-time Orthodox parish in Princeton, New Jersey. And so they had a priest that would come and just travel there. They were renting space to worship, with the hope of building actually a permanent home. And it was so nice because it was just very convenient, close to my work office. So I started to go there in the evening services, and then very quickly that became my new parish home.
Then is that where you started your mission work in Albania from?
A little bit, yes, because my priest there, Father Peter, he actually connected me with Nathan Hoppy, who is our longest term missionary out of the Orthodox Christian Mission Center in Albania. But really, what prompted that was I'll call it a life-changing experience, when my father unexpectedly in a car accident passed away. And so when my father passed away, it really shook me to say, what am I doing with my life here? And I always had something in my heart of, do I want to go into the mission field? It's just both from when I was at the Bible church, and then even converting to Orthodoxy, sharing Christ's love, sharing Christ's church has just always been something extremely important to me. So with my father's passing, that finally put action into things for me, where I was talking to Father Peter about, I really wonder, how do I find out if this is something I want to do? Well, he actually knew Nathan Hoppy and connected me with Nathan. And that's where Nathan and I were exploring different possibilities. And I had the chance then, I went to Albania in the summer of 2018 by myself, so not with any organized trip. I wanted a real.
You became Orthodox in what year?
I became Orthodox in 1994. So this
is
is
14 years later.
14 years later. Yep, this is a while later.
So you just went up and decided you're going to go to Albania and see Nathan Hoppy.
Yes, because I wanted to experience, not with a group, but myself, of what would it be like if I went overseas to a country I've never been to? I don't speak the language. What would that be like? And that's a bit missionary work. You're going to a foreign place, and usually if they don't speak English there too, you don't have a network of people. So I went over in the summer. I got the blessing, right, from my Archbishop here. I got the blessing from the Archbishop there, and was able to go and work at the summer camps with the girls. So they, in the summertime, just very similar here in the United States, in many faiths, right? There's summer camps. There's one in the girls out in Albasan, and then there's the boys have their own in a different location there in Albania. And I spent 5 weeks with different age camps of girls, just seeing what it was like, and also having the opportunity to speak to them. But to speak to them, you need a translator. So learned that whole process of how do you give a talk to 12-year-old young ladies there about faith, about in the Bible, we were studying the book of Mark, and having someone translate.
Albania was communist, and then communism fell. When you went there, yeah, do you remember what like percentage was Orthodox or percentage was other?
It's still, I don't recall the percentages. I should know this off the top of my head, but it's still very, I would call it even secular, because when my understanding with the communists, but actually no one could practice any faith. So it wasn't only the Orthodox. I mean, Muslims couldn't practice either. So that was all disbanded. And then it's been a while, but you can imagine like anything actually reconstructing it and trying to really resurrect it is a lifelong journey there too. So it's still heavily Muslim, but also very secular. Obviously something we even, I think, struggle with here in the United States, but it's extremely like secularism there too that they combat with.
So you may not know this, but do you know that if the young people there struggle more with the secularism or the Islam, or I would
I
imagine
think they
maybe
struggle.
secularism.
I'm going to say they struggle more with the secularism, right? Because what it is it's like these lovely phones, right,
Yeah.
are a blessing, but then they make the world really, really small, and also make things a challenge too. So you'll find, right, everyone's on Facebook, Instagram, all these different things, and just like here, there's some advantages and there's some disadvantages.
Right. So you were there for 5 weeks.
I was there for 5 weeks. Amazing experience. I'm so glad I did it. It was scary since I was there by myself, but it really struck me of I should be doing something. I don't know if I'm ready or it's my calling to go in the mission field, but I should be doing something more around missions. And so I spoke to Nathan. Do you have ideas? What do you think? And he says, well, the Orthodox Christian Mission Center, who located in St. Augustine, Florida, they have a board of directors. He says, I think you would be really good for their board of directors. With my work background and strategy background, he says, I could see a fit there. How do I find out more? So Nathan, and then actually Father Alex Cadman connected me to find out how I could apply to be on the board of directors. And I'm very blessed. That happened actually quickly, because in the spring of 2019, so not even a year after I was in Albania, I'm blessed to have been invited to be on that board and have served on that board for the last 6 years.
What do you do there?
Well, we help Father Martin Ritzy, the executive director, with the Mission Center plans. So it's not only taking care of the missionaries who were in the field and recruiting new missionaries, it's also about using the financial funds that folks donate to the different communities around the world, and using that wisely with building up the church and showing love. So it's helping Father Martin and his team strategically make sure we're going in the right direction and really using what I'll call the talents and the treasures God has given us in the fields.
We send missionaries to Albania. What other countries do they send them out to?
So we have several missionaries in Guatemala. So we have a larger, usually, presence in the Guatemala area there. We also have sent folks out into New Zealand and Fiji area also. We don't have any current missionaries in Eastern Africa, but we work very closely in Eastern Africa too. I'm like going through my list. Oh, we have a missionary down in the Mexico area. We coordinate actually with Project Mexico also with the missionaries that are there. So we help out. So all over.
Project Mexico. What is Project Mexico?
So Project Mexico, from my understanding, not that I'm the expert on it, but that the Orthodox Church has a presence there with an orphanage too. So with the orphans from very, very young, like infant age, up to high school. And so they have a home for boys there, the orphanage there. They help build homes too for the folks in that area. So a lot of different I would call it sharing Christ's love through those means to the people in that area.
For the people watching, what would your pitch be for someone to become a missionary? Why should somebody look into missionary work or look into supporting it, or even supporting with funding, or with their funds, or either going or supporting, or like their short term, long term? What would you say?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that's a good one to pitch with it. Well, I go back to Christ's great commandment of calling all of us to make disciples of all nations. And I would say, if you're an individual on your heart of, yes, we need to be doing that in the United States, right? We're all called for that in our communities, but of all nations. So that means outside the borders of the United States too. There's many, many countries and locations of folks who still have not heard of Christ, of God. And if you either are motivated by that to share Christ's love, first and foremost, prayers for those who are doing that work, for the hierarchs that are there. But also, if you have interest in serving beyond the U.S. borders, I think that's something to explore. So being able to see those opportunities are always on the OCMC website there. But I would say we all have to reflect upon that. That's not for one or two individuals. Right? I would say, Gary, what you do on Penn State campus too is in that line from how I view what God has all called us to do. We're supposed to, right, shine that light, not put it under any bucket or basket there. So we all have to humbly share his light.
Right, one way or another, best we can. So OCMC, what, .org or .com?
.org. Yep. OCMC.org.
So you also do a lot of work in Germany as far as your whatever work you do is also in Germany. What's the church like in Germany? Did you have a trouble, relating to that at all? Or was it kind of like going to the Greek church? It's just all the same, it's just different language, or?
Yeah. So I felt when I got to Germany, which then was the summer of 2019. So all of that between Albania, OCMC board, and then moving to Germany all happened rather quickly. The service, as soon as I arrived, I'll never forget it. I arrived during the weekday. So then on Saturday, right? We have Vespers service on Saturday evening. I went to the church that was closest to my apartment. I had been to an Orthodox church in Munich from my other business travels, but the one I wanted to go to, since it was in walking distance of my apartment, went to on that Saturday evening. And when I walked into that church, it's a Greek Orthodox church, so there's many Greeks migrated there. It felt full circle for me of, wonder maybe why my first 10 years of Orthodoxy was at a Greek church, because this felt like home. I knew the liturgy, since it's all in Greek. Actually, in Germany, they're starting to do some German now there, but otherwise it's all in the ancient Greek. It just felt full circle moment. I understood it, and I felt at home. Now, it took a while to connect with folks in that community. So that did take a little bit of longer time, because I'm trying to think, one day I felt like we had 400 to 500 people in church. So very, very big community. So it's easy to get lost in it. So it took me a while, but now it's just such a joy when I get to travel back to Germany to visit my church family there.
I don't know if you would know the answer to this or not, but what would you say is if you know, what would you say is I don't know if health of the church is all that, is that the right thing to say, but both in Albania and Germany. Albania would be tough, I guess, because they did come from communism, and there's a lot of Islam and secularism. I assume there's a lot of secularism in Germany too.
There is. So I would say in Germany specifically, since I was in Munich in the state of Bavaria, which is the southern state, where I'm like going with that on the southern side of all of Germany, down by the Alps, that has been predominantly Roman Catholic. Where when you move north through Germany, the northern part is more Protestant. So because of that area being more Roman Catholic, even though they've gotten more secular, like many, there's still a tradition there. So, for example, everything's closed on Sunday. Nothing is open. There's no stores. That's time for family, church. Maybe not as many go to church anymore there, but it's family time. Everything's closed. Museums are open, meant for family, but everything's closed. Even on other holidays, most of the holidays in that area are all around the church calendar. So, for example, everything's closed on Good Friday, Holy Friday. Everything's closed on Monday, Easter too, and it's closed. People are off. So I feel like because of some of those little pieces, they're maybe not as like secular environment as compared to maybe other locations.
Like the United States.
Like the United
States. It's interesting because my daughter lives in England. It's similar there. You know, they get a week off at Easter, they get a week off, or how long they get off at Christmas. So they get all these, I wouldn't say people there are necessarily very religious, but they get all those holidays off. They, like you said, they still have the remnant of it there, which we've kind of done away with here.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
they
they're
have a lot
shocked.
What's that?
They're shocked that we don't have, when I talk to my coworkers, and they're like, wait, you in the United States don't have like Holy Friday, Good Friday off, like everything closed? And I'm like, no, some things you don't have to. And they're surprised by it.
Yeah. And we always, you know, at least some in America want to be like Europe, but you know, but they don't realize that Europe or England or whatever is, at least has the remnant of Christianity left to it. I don't know how practicing they are, but there's a lot of Catholic schools in England, and they're funded by the government, as far as I understand. And so, but even the more public schools are much more. They're not as, they don't seem to me, and I only have a little bit of experience down in Liverpool, or up in Liverpool, but they don't seem as quite as woke necessarily in the school systems as we are here.
We are here, yeah.
But
I like how you phrase that though, Gary. It is this remnant that you hope maybe can keep a light or a spark going if folks are looking to get back to their faith into God.
Yeah, even though it could be considered, just kind of on the one hand, a deception because you think you're still religious because you have these holidays off and so on. But if they ever do get back to Christ, then they've already got that infrastructure there, so to speak, that they can just kind of fall right back into or get right back into.
Exactly.
So is there anything else you'd like to say before?
Well, I think maybe just to conclude, so kind of full circle after being in Germany for 3.5 years and attending church there, now come back to the US. Never had imagined now that I'd be living where I went to school, in State College. So with attending Holy Trinity Church with you there, one thing that's also a blessing I find with Orthodoxy is Father John Reeves of blessed memory from our church. I met him when he first came here and visit and would talk with him. So it was always just such a great resource and spiritual guide to have, that it's just, interesting that now, okay, God has put me here to attend church, and I get to still do my Orthodox Christian mission work from here too. But I feel like sort of another full circle memory to maybe erase a little bit of my lost anti-Christian days at Penn State to get back to something that's really near and dear to me.
I have a feeling your anti-Christian days at Penn State weren't quite as anti-Christian as mine were,
Oh,
but
okay.
nonetheless. Yeah, Father John had a vision for the university, and so does Father Ignatius, the priest there now. They both have Holy Trinity is located basically in downtown State College, right in the middle of a bunch of student housing and stuff. And so it's a perfect kind of jumping off point for the university. And Father John came in when they first, I don't know when they first bought the building, but he was the first priest there after they bought the building. And he really got everything oriented towards the campus. And then I think his motto was building up the church outside the parish or something like that. And then Father Ignatius has come in, and I think he picked up where Father John has left off, and they're now in the hunt for a full-time campus minister for the student group and so on, and to maybe get even more of a missionary focus there. So
yeah,
hopefully that'll all work out.
I'm sure, God willing, with our prayers too, I think it will, because it's just such a blessing. I could only imagine having a church walking distance to go to. I think is really important with a size campus like Penn State. There, you need to make it easy, and I think so many youth are searching, no matter what decade it has been. I think that's definitely a time where folks are searching for things. So yeah, God willing, all of that will happen here and be a blessing for others.
Hopefully. Well, thank you, Stacey.
You're
Thank you
very
for coming on.
welcome. Very welcome. My pleasure. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my journey. I don't think I've done that for that many of years, but I really appreciate it, Gary and Matt.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all of that with us. It's really tremendous, and yeah, it's wonderful to see you have had such an openness to what God was doing in your life in all those different times and places. And so, yeah, I'm really glad you've gotten to know Gary. And I was one of those students walking from the dorm to Spark Street to Holy Trinity. So, yeah, it's really lovely. It's a really lovely situation there for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
We started this series of people's testimonies. Somebody asked me on campus, where they could go to learn more about Orthodoxy, and give them things. But I thought, well, maybe they might enjoy listening to testimonies. And everybody's testimony is different. Everybody's, experience is different. And so anybody who comes in and wants to listen to the various testimonies will probably find one that they can relate to. Probably find one that's close to their experience, or close to what their experience would be on their journey to Orthodoxy. So, anybody listening out there, you can listen to Stacey and the others, and and if you want to, I don't know if we have a way. If anybody contact us. We can put you in contact with Stacey if you have any further questions.
Yeah. And I would just say, like it was said to me there, if you're interested in Orthodoxy, find a church, come and see. There is nothing like experiencing any service, maybe especially starting out with a Saturday evening Vesper service, but really come and see. There's something about it that definitely evokes all the senses.
Yeah, that it's different from when you're watching it online. I think you, my wife Karen, Father Alex Cadman, and David Swisher, we had on, at least you four, all kind of walked into an Orthodox church and said, yes, this is it. And others like me take a little longer, but it's interesting to me, just somebody who can walk into the church and just know, yep, this is it.
Yeah. Well, right, we're all different things speak to us differently. Again, some people are going to just jump in the pool. Others are going to go investigate and ask a little bit, maybe more questions, and that's all okay. But there is something with coming and actually seeing and experiencing it. So that's what I would just encourage folks to do. Yes, you can see it online, and that's a first step, but come and see and ask someone, hey, show me what this is all about.
Yeah, it is a whole different experience when you actually go there in person. I mean, just watching it online. And I don't know what every church is, but I know in our church and others, people will help you if you say, like we had a student come Saturday night, I guess, for the first time. And I'm kind of brain dead, so I didn't know he was there for the first time. So we were sitting out on the steps talking, and he came out and said, "That's my first time here." He's a freshman. And so, we got one of the parishioners there to kind of walk him through it, sit with him and tell him what was going on, and hooked him up with the college students afterwards so that they could get him hooked into OCF and everything. So, but that's probably the same in most parishes. You tell somebody, hey, look, I'm the first time, haven't been here before. Normally there's going to be people there that'll help you,
So true.
And if not, you can just kind of stand in the back or whatever and watch what everybody else does and just kind of take it in and learn a little bit at a time.
Yeah. So true. But there always will be someone there to help out from what I've seen. I mean, it reminds me of just recently, a few weeks ago, a young lady from the college too said, I was walking in at the same time, and she's like, this is my first time, like, come along. Most people thought we knew each other for a long time, which was really funny. Who's your friend? And I'm like, no, we just met, and gonna show her about the service and to share. It's a real blessing to pass it, right? Because we all received it from someone. So my godmother was kind enough to share her faith and teach me through it too. We all have to take turns of helping and passing it along.
And you don't really have to worry about, messing up. If you go in there and just watch and, see what everybody does. And some people like to jump right in, like you say, and do everything everybody else is doing. Other people, like myself, just like to sit back and watch and see what's going on and kind of get a handle on it. So everybody's different, but you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm going to do something wrong or something. Just go in and for me, I would suggest standing in the back or whatever, so you can watch everything going on, whatever you feel comfortable with, and just see how everything's working. And as you keep coming back, you kind of understand more, you get to know people, and eventually, you hopefully get baptized one day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, take the plunge. Well, thank you again.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Have a good evening.
You too.